This is honestly one of my all-time favorite cleanings, and you're about to see why. The residents here haven't stepped foot in the kitchen for over 3 whole years. And during that time, the fridge door has stayed completely shut. Almost like it's guarding some kind of secret. And well, today guys, I'm gonna be the one to open it and find out what's been hiding inside all this time. And that's not all, because this cleaning also comes with a wild backstory about how the landlord, who had actually built this house together with her husband, found out to her absolute horror what the place had turned into. So now, let's clean! Okay, so I want to give you a quick tour of this house so you get an idea what kind of place we are cleaning now. So first, here's the entryway, and on the left side, there's a bathroom. And on the right side, there's the living room. And you can't see it right now because that other video is playing there. But it's there, so let's wait a second. So we can see it. Yeah, there it is. And then behind us, where the camera is, there's a room with huge piles of trash stacked high. And you have to walk through that room to get to the kitchen. Yep, it's right there, this place. But yeah, since that room is literally packed floor to ceiling with trashes, nobody's been in the kitchen for over 3 years because you just can't get through, right? And now we're gonna start clearing things out towards the living room, which the residents these days also use as their kitchen. Yeah, because just wait until you see their coffee table, or maybe I should say their kitchen table, I don't know. And luckily today I'm not doing this alone because I've got my amazing followers and my cousin Veeti here helping me out. And altogether there's like 6 of us working side by side on this place. But now let's talk a little bit about the story behind this place. So there was this woman who had reached out to me several times asking if I could help her. But I think I must missed her first few messages completely until finally one of her emails actually got through to me. And when I opened it and saw the photos of this house, I was instantly so excited. But honestly, I had no idea what I was really getting myself into. And here's the skip/container I ordered to the yard. And honestly, the yard itself is also completely full of trashes. Hey, here's the famous living room kitchen table. On this table, there's a coffee maker or /kettle, a pot, and one of those little portable countertops. And a lot of coffee filters and coffee. But yeah, this place is located way out in the middle of nowhere compared to where I live. I mean, there wasn't even hotels nearby. So the drive here took like several hours. And all I really knew before coming was that I was going to help this woman who lives in a big detached house. And of course, like always, the cleaning would be completely free. And then we finally arrived at the house and pulled into the yard, and there she was, standing in the garage. And let me tell you guys, this garage wasn't just a little cluttered, it was completely packed, floor to ceiling, with stuff stacked so high you could barely see the walls. And right there in the middle of all that chaos, she had a little coffee setup going, and she was casually brewing herself a cup. Like this was the most normal thing in the world, but I bet it kind of was. And the moment she saw us, the very first thing she asked was if we'd like some coffee too. And I know it was such a sweet gesture, but we politely said no thank you, we're good. Then, as we were chatting, I mentioned that we'd had a bit of trouble finding a place to stay for the night because the area was so remote, and she didn't even hesitate. She pointed over to one corner of the garage and told us there were some mattresses in there, and if we wanted, we could just carry them inside and sleep on them. And in that moment, me and my cousin looked at each other, smiled, and thanked her, obviously. But I told her we'd definitely find somewhere else to stay. Because even though I can clean places like this, there's just no way I could actually spend the night in one, right? And now that we've finally cleared out the room in the front of the kitchen, we can actually see it. And do you see it's completely full of foil packaging? So obviously I asked her why it was all full of foil, and she told me that she and her partner had been grilling outside, and every single time they finished, they would just toss the used trashes straight into the kitchen. And I didn't ask why, but that's just how they did things. And the woman spent the entire day hanging out in the garage, so every now and then I'd wandered over there and chat with her. Okay, this might look like a really quick cleanup getting all these trashes out, but in reality it actually took us a long time to haul everything out of here. And do you see that stuff that looks like sawdust? And then all those little black specks? That's because the rats have chewed through all the installation and pooped absolutely everywhere. So yeah, and right around this point, the woman came over to explain to me that she and her female partner had been living here for over 10 years. And now they wanted to move out. But before they did, they wanted to have the house cleaned. And at least that's what she said. Maybe they really did want that, but there was a bit more. We'll get into that part of the story a bit later. So then, at one point, I ended up posting on my Instagram about this cleanup, saying like, hey, we could really use some extra help with this one. Is there anybody near? And I put up a picture on my Instagram story showing part of the kitchen. And in that shot, you could clearly see that blue tile in the background. At the time, I didn't think much of it. It was just a little behind the scenes peek. But that photo ended up becoming a bigger part of the story that I expected. Because then, guys, while I was in the middle of cleaning this kitchen, out of nowhere, this random woman suddenly rushed in. And she was like crying, and I didn't know what was going on. And I'm not sure, I don't remember exactly, but I do remember she seemed really nervous, kind of irritated, or maybe a little angry, but still friendly towards me. And at the same time, she was sort of teary-eyed and in shock. So yeah, there was a lot of emotions. And just to be clear, she wasn't the resident or her partner, but at this point I had no idea who she was or where she had even come from. And then I went over to talk to my cousin, trying to figure out what on earth had just happened. And that's when he told me that this was actually the woman's own house. And then suddenly it all started to make a little more sense, and she wasn't just a random person wandering in. She was the actual owner. And hearing that, I could completely understand why she looked the way she did. And she was standing there in total shock. And you could see it in her face that she was completely overwhelmed by what she had just walked into. So I asked my cousin how he even knew that, and he told me that while I'd been busy in the kitchen, he had apparently ended up talking to the woman outside, and she'd be clearly shaken. But somewhere in the middle of their conversation, she managed to get the words out of that she was actually the owner of this house. And at one point, she started yelling at the tenant right in the yard, and the tenant was in the garage. And he didn't catch every word, but from the way she was waving her arms and the tone of her voice, it was obvious she was furious and probably heartbroken at the same time. And it was one of those moments where you could feel the tension hanging in the air, even from the inside the house. And then, not too long after that, the tenant, the resident, the same woman we'd been helping, came over and started venting about the landlord, going on and on about how she had yelled her and blah 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 blah, that this isn't their fault, and they are cleaning this and they have paid the rent on time. Oh, here we go, let's open the fridge. It looks pretty nice. Not as bad as I thought. Wow, beautiful. But yeah, I was just standing there thinking like, what on earth is happening right now? But as it turns out, this was nowhere near the end of the drama. Because then the woman, the owner, really did come back. And this time she told me everything. She was, thank God, a lot calmer this time, and she had come inside with another woman, and we started talking. First, she told me that she and her husband had built this house a long time ago together. And if I remember right, it was either just before their child was born or shortly after. And they had at least one daughter, and this place wasn't just a building to them, it was their dream home. And that other woman who had come in with her turned out to be her daughter. And I'd guess the daughter was maybe around 30 to 40 years old, and the woman herself was probably somewhere around 70. And this was the kind of place they imagined themselves growing old in together, raising their family and making memories for decades to come. And they had poured their time, their money, and their hearts into every single part of it, believing it would be theirs forever. But then life took a turn and things didn't go the way they had planned. Because sadly, her husband passed away. And suddenly this huge house, the one they had built together and filled with dreams, was hers alone. She told me she never really felt at ease here after that, because the rooms felt too big, the yard seemed endless, and every little corner of the place carried some memory of him, memory of them. And the kitchen where they used to have breakfast together, the garden he had cared for, everything just reminded of him. And of course, it wasn't that she didn't love the house, she did. But being here alone made the silence feel heavier and heavier. And what was once warm, happy home had started to feel more like a museum of memories she couldn't get away from. So she made the decision to rent the house out, thinking it would be so much better for someone to live it in than for it just to sit empty. And she ended up finding these two women who seemed like perfectly fine tenants. And at first, everything looked like it was going to work out. I mean, what could possibly go wrong, right? Well, pretty much everything. And in the beginning, things seemed smooth. The woman always paid their rent on time, without fail, and month after month, the money came in exactly when it was supposed to. So she never had any reasons to suspect there might be trouble brewing. Because of that, she didn't visit much, trusting that everything inside was being kept in good shape. The woman told me she had tried to visit the house a few times over the years just to check in. But every time she went, the tenants either didn't answer the door or simply weren't home. Nobody knows. And no matter how she tried to arrange it, she couldn't never manage to set up an actual time to meet with them. But she did know that the couple had at least 2 dogs. And once she was visiting the house, because she always tried to get in, she saw one of the dogs outside in the yard. And she noticed that the dog had a really bad eye infection. And its eye was red and irritated, and it clearly needed care. And she remembered feeling worried, wondering what was going on. And the yard itself was another story, because it wasn't being looked after at all. The grass went uncut, weeds started creeping in, and after about 7 years, she began to notice bits of trashes piling up outside. And at first, she didn't think much of it. She just assumed the tenants had tossed out a few random things here and there, maybe some old boxes or bags. Nothing too serious, or she wanted to believe that. And in her mind, the inside of the house was still exactly as she had left it, clean and well cared for. And she had no idea that behind those closed doors, the reality was a completely different story. Because honestly, it's pretty hard, or almost impossible to believe that someone could actually live like this for years. I mean, of course you'd assume the house was still in livable condition, right? But then, this day, completely out of the blue, her daughter called her and started the conversation with something like, "Hey, have you heard about this cleaner?" And I'm not sure if the mom had or hadn't heard about me, but the daughter went on to explain that one of her friends follows the world's best cleaner, which in this case happened to be me, on Instagram. And that friend had been scrolling my stories and saw that I was cleaning this place in their area. And keep in mind, this is a tiny town, like really tiny, like everyone knows everyone. Still, the wild part is that this friend looked at the photos I'd posted. And just a quick shot of the kitchen with those blue tiles in the background. And she maybe recognized them, and she called the owner's daughter right away and said, like, "There's no way, but is this your mom's house?" And by the way, now we are cleaning the office next to the kitchen, the room next to the kitchen again. Yes, we are here. But yeah, then the daughter, probably hoping it was just a strange coincidence, went and showed the picture to her mom. But the moment they saw it, their hearts dropped. Because the mom instantly knew it was her kitchen. The one she had once loved so much. And now it was so full of garbage that you couldn't even see the floor, with rat droppings scattered across the counters. And it was like looking at a nightmare version of her own home. And in that moment, she understood I was already there cleaning inside her house, and this could very well be her one and only chance to come in and see what is going on. And that realization hit her so hard that she didn't want to waste a second. She came straight over. And this was the photo I took right after she left, once I'd found out that she was the owner and the one who had actually built this house. And I just remember feeling so awful and sad for her because every single floor and wall in the place was ruined. And the tenants had asked us to look for and save their belongings from among all the trashes, so they could pack them in the moving boxes, or actually we packed them. And that's when it really started to click for me that maybe the real reason they wanted this cleaning done wasn't so much to have a nice clean house, but because they needed to get their things out of here. And honestly, that's totally fine. It's okay for me. But I was also really glad that we came here to do this free cleaning, because if we hadn't, the landlord might have gone on who knows how much longer without ever knowing what had really been happening inside her own house. And this way she finally got to see the truth with her own eyes, the damage, the mess, the way the place had been treated. And then she kicked the tenants out. And even though it was heartbreaking for her, at least she wasn't left in the dark anymore. And for me, that was the most important part of the whole thing. And it's crazy because this cleaning is still so important to me, like seriously, even though it happened like back in 2022, but I just know I'm going to remember it for the rest of my life. Even when I'm old and sitting in a rocking chair in a nursing home, I'm just gonna tell this story to someone there. And guys, I love you so much. You are the best, and enjoy the before and after pictures, and see you in the next dirty haul. I love you so much. Bye.